Have you ever imagined becoming friends with an alien? One night, a boy named Elliot discovered a small, strange creature lost on Earth. From that moment, a special and heartwarming friendship began, crossing all boundaries between humans and aliens. Join us to explore this magical adventure and witness a friendship that will never fade. This touching story will warm your heart. On a quiet night in the suburbs, a 10-year-old boy named Elliot lived with his mother, older brother Michael, and little sister Gertie in a cozy, modest house. Their neighborhood was peaceful, surrounded by rolling hills and dense woods that stretched beyond their backyard. Life was simple for Elliot, days filled with school, games, and playful quarrels with his siblings. Yet deep inside, he often felt a little lonely. His father had left the family some time ago, and although his mother did her best to care for them, Elliot sometimes wished for someone who truly understood him. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a soft shade of purple, Elliot played outside in the backyard. The air was crisp, and the distant sound of crickets filled the night. The warm glow of light spilled from the kitchen window, where his mother was cleaning up after dinner. Michael was busy playing a board game inside, and Gertie was talking to her dolls. Alone under the twinkling stars, Elliot tossed a ball against the fence absent-mindedly, lost in his thoughts. Suddenly, a strange rustling sound came from the woods behind his house. At first, he thought it might be a raccoon or a stray dog, but this noise was different, softer but persistent. Curious, Elliot stopped what he was doing and tilted his head, listening carefully. The sound came again, a faint shuffle, as if something or someone was moving through the underbrush. His heart began to race with a mix of excitement and fear. Grabbing a flashlight from the garage, Elliot hesitated for a moment before stepping toward the edge of the forest. The towering trees cast long shadows in the moonlight, making the woods feel mysterious and a little scary. Still, his curiosity pushed him forward. With each step, the cool grass brushed against his sneakers, and the night air grew colder. The sound grew louder, clearer. Whatever was out there was close. He swept the flashlight beam across the tangled bushes and low-hanging branches. For a moment, everything seemed still. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of something small and hunched over. It wasn't an animal. It was something else, something unlike anything he had ever seen. A chill ran down his spine as he realized this was no ordinary creature. Taking a deep breath, Elliot crept closer, his heart pounding in his chest. What or who was hiding in the woods? Little did he know, this night would change his life forever. In the shadows of the dense forest, Elliot discovered a small, strange creature hidden among the bushes. It had large, glowing eyes that shimmered softly in the moonlight. The creature looked scared and fragile, curling itself into a ball as if trying to hide. At first, Elliot felt a wave of fear. This wasn't like any animal he had ever seen, but as he watched the creature tremble, his fear slowly faded. It didn't seem dangerous or aggressive. Instead, it looked lonely and lost. Curious, Elliot knelt down and whispered softly, "Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you." The creature tilted its head, watching him carefully. Gathering his courage, Elliot reached out his hand. To his surprise, the creature hesitated for a moment, then extended a small, delicate hand in return. The touch was warm and gentle. Elliot felt an unexpected connection to this mysterious being. Without thinking twice, he knew he couldn't leave it alone in the cold, dark woods. Carefully, he lifted the creature into his arms. It was lighter than he expected and didn't resist. As he quietly walked back to his house, Elliot's mind filled with questions. Where did it come from? Was it alone? Would anyone believe him? Once inside, Elliot tiptoed upstairs to his room, making sure no one saw him. He gently placed the creature on a pile of soft blankets inside his closet. "You'll be safe here," he whispered. The creature gazed up at him with glowing eyes that seemed to hold a silent thank you. Elliot didn't know who or what it was, but deep down, he felt their meeting was the start of something extraordinary. The next morning, Elliot couldn't stop thinking about the strange creature he had found. As soon as he woke up, he rushed to check on it. The creature was still there, curled up in the soft blankets inside his closet, looking calm but curious. Its large, glowing eyes followed his every movement, and Elliot felt a strange sense of comfort knowing it was safe. Unable to keep the secret to himself, Elliot decided to tell his older brother Michael and younger sister Gertie. At first, they both laughed, thinking Elliot was making up another wild story. A creature from space? Seriously, Michael teased. But Elliot insisted, his voice filled with excitement and urgency. I'm not joking, it's real. Come and see for yourselves. Curious but skeptical, Michael and Gertie followed Elliot to his room. With a deep breath, Elliot opened the closet door. Both siblings froze in shock when they saw the strange, wrinkled creature staring back at them. Its soft brown skin, small body, and glowing eyes were unlike anything they had ever seen before. Gertie's eyes widened in wonder. It's so cute, she whispered. Michael, on the other hand, tried to stay calm, but couldn't hide his astonishment. What is that thing? He asked. Elliot smiled proudly and said, I think it's from another planet. I'm calling it E.T., short for C, Extra-Terrestrial. Despite their shock, both Michael and Gertie quickly grew fascinated by E.T. They watched as the creature curiously explored the room, touching objects with its long, delicate fingers. It seemed intelligent, but also gentle and harmless. I can't believe this, Michael murmured. We actually found a real alien. From that moment on, the three siblings made a promise. They would protect E.T. and keep its existence a secret, no matter what. What they didn't know was that their lives were about to become an incredible adventure beyond anything they had ever imagined. Part 2. A Magical Friendship. As days passed, Elliot and E.T. grew closer. What had started as curiosity soon turned into a deep, unspoken bond. Elliot spent every spare moment with his new alien friend, eager to teach him about life on Earth. With patience and kindness, he showed E.T. how to do simple things, like pointing out common objects, naming foods, and even explaining how toys worked. At first, E.T. struggled to understand, but he learned quickly. His large, curious eyes sparkled with excitement each time he discovered something new. One day, as Elliot held up a ball and said, "Ball," E.T. tilted his head and repeated softly, "B, ball." Elliot's face lit up with joy. "You did it," he laughed, clapping his hands. E.T. seemed pleased, and from that moment, he tried harder to communicate. As their friendship grew, something even more extraordinary began to happen. Elliot noticed that he and E.T. shared a mysterious, emotional connection. If E.T. felt happy, Elliot felt a warm, joyful sensation in his chest. When E.T. was scared or lonely, Elliot's heart ached with sadness. It was as if their minds and hearts were linked in ways no one could explain. One day, when E.T. accidentally cut his hand, Elliot felt a sharp sting on his own palm. At first, it frightened him, but as soon as E.T. healed himself using a soft, glowing light from his fingertip, Elliot's pain vanished too. The connection was real, and it was growing stronger. Elliot trusted E.T. completely. He shared his dreams, his fears, and even talked about how much he missed his father. E.T., though unable to express everything in words, seemed to understand. He would touch Elliot's hand gently whenever the boy felt sad, offering comfort without needing to speak. Michael and Gertie also became part of their secret world. Michael, though still cautious, admired how brave Elliot was. Gertie, in her playful innocence, loved teaching E.T. new words. She even dressed him up in a funny outfit one day, making everyone burst into laughter. Despite the danger of being discovered, their days together were filled with joy and wonder. Through their friendship, Elliot learned what it meant to care deeply for someone else. And for E.T., far from his home planet, Elliot's kindness became a lifeline, a reminder that even in a strange world, he was not alone. But as their bond grew stronger, so did the mystery. Where did E.T. come from? Was anyone looking for him? And most importantly, how long could they keep his existence a secret? Unknowingly, their magical friendship was leading them toward an adventure that would change all their lives forever. E.T. was incredibly intelligent and curious about the world around him. Every day, he eagerly explored new things with Elliot, Michael, and Gertie by his side. Despite being from another planet, E.T. learned quickly and seemed fascinated by the simplest human activities. Elliot introduced E.T. to toys, showing him how to roll a ball, play with action figures, and even ride a bike. E.T. clumsily tried to copy everything, making the children laugh. One day, Gertie handed him a box of chocolate candies, and to their surprise, E.T. loved them. He carefully picked up each piece with his long fingers, his eyes lighting up with delight. They also showed him how to watch TV, and E.T. became mesmerized by the colorful images on the screen. He especially loved watching cartoons, tilting his head in wonder at the moving pictures and funny sounds. Whenever something confused him, he would point at it, and Elliot patiently explained. As the days passed, Elliot realized that E.T. wasn't just curious, he was also incredibly smart. E.T. could understand more than anyone expected. He figured out how to open doors, turn on lights, and even mimic human gestures. Once, when Michael lost a game, E.T. playfully imitated his frustrated sigh, making everyone laugh. But despite these happy moments, Elliot began to notice something else. E.T. was starting to feel sad and homesick. Sometimes, the alien would sit quietly by the window, gazing up at the night sky with a longing expression. His glowing eyes seemed distant, as if he was thinking of a place far, far away. One evening, as Elliot tucked E.T. into his soft blanket in the closet, he whispered, "Do you miss home?" E.T. didn't speak much, but his gentle nod and the sadness in his eyes gave Elliot the answer. He did. Elliot's heart ached. He wanted to keep his new friend with him forever, but deep down, he knew E.T. didn't belong on Earth. He needed to go home. Determined to help, Elliot promised himself that he would do everything he could to help E.T. find a way back, no matter how difficult or dangerous it might be. Little did he know, time was running out, and others were already looking for E.T. Their friendship was about to face its biggest test yet. Meanwhile, the government had detected signs of a mysterious object landing near the town. Strange signals and unusual activity had caught their attention. Believing it could be something not of this Earth, they sent a team of secret agents to investigate. These agents, dressed in dark suits and carrying advanced equipment, began to search the surrounding area, determined to uncover the truth. At first, their presence was subtle. Unmarked vans parked near the forest, strange devices scanning the skies, and quiet men asking questions around the neighborhood. But soon, their search became more intense. They combed through the woods, searching for any sign of an extraterrestrial being. Elliot, Michael, and Gertie didn't know the full extent of the danger until one afternoon, Elliot spotted a black van slowly driving past their house. Through the window, he saw men with radios speaking in low voices. His heart pounded in his chest. They were getting closer. Rushing inside, Elliot told Michael and Gertie, "They're looking for E.T. We have to protect him." The three siblings knew that if the government found E.T., they would take him away, and he might never get home. They became extra careful, keeping E.T. hidden at all times. During the day, he stayed safely in Elliot's closet. At night, they let him come out to stretch, explore, and look at the stars. But every time a car passed or a strange sound echoed outside, they froze in fear, worried someone would find their secret. Despite the danger, E.T. continued to learn. He had become part of their family, sharing laughs, discoveries, and quiet moments. Yet Elliot couldn't ignore the fact that E.T. was growing weaker. His glowing chest dipped, and his movements became slower. It was clear he couldn't stay much longer. One evening, while watching the stars together, E.T. touched Elliot's hand and softly whispered, "Home." The word was simple, but filled with longing. Elliot's heart broke a little. He knew he had to act, and fast, before it was too late. But the agents were closing in. One morning, Michael returned from school with terrifying news. "They've set up a base near the forest," he whispered urgently. "They know something is here, and they won't stop until they find it." Time was running out. Elliot and his siblings needed a plan, not just to hide E.T., but to send him home before the government captured him. With courage and determination, they vowed to protect their friend, no matter what it took. The adventure was only beginning, and the greatest challenge lay ahead. Part 3. The Journey Home. As days passed, E.T. grew weaker and more homesick. His once bright chest began to fade, and his energy seemed to drain away. Elliot could feel his sadness through their mysterious connection. It was clear that E.T. missed his home and needed to return to his planet. Determined to help his friend, Elliot came up with a plan. Contact the mothership. If they could send a signal into space, maybe E.T., his family would find him and bring him home. Elliot shared his idea with Michael, who, despite his doubts, agreed to help. Together, the brothers began to build a communication device using whatever they could find around the house. They scavenged the garage and attic, collecting old TV antennas, radios, and even parts from a broken record player. With E.T.'s intelligence and understanding of technology, the device quickly took shape. Late at night, while everyone else slept, the three siblings worked in secret. Michael adjusted the antenna, Gertie held the flashlight, and Elliot connected wires under E.T.'s careful guidance. Although the process was complicated, E.T.'s ability to understand electronics made things easy. Finally, after days of hard work, the device was ready. They carried it deep into the forest where the sky was open and clear. E.T., though weak, used his glowing finger to activate the machine. Lights blinked, dials turned, and soon, a strange signal pulsed into the sky. As the signal beamed upward, Elliot whispered, "Please come back for him. He needs you." E.T. looked at Elliot with gratitude, his glowing eyes filled with hope. Night after night, they returned to the forest, sending the signal again and again. E.T.'s health continued to decline, but he never lost faith that his family would hear him. Meanwhile, the government's search grew more intense. Elliot knew they had to work quickly before it was too late. One night, as they sent another message, something incredible happened. The machine began to flicker and hum with unusual energy. E.T.'s chest glowed brighter for the first time in days, and his eyes widened with excitement. Elliot's heart raced. Had the message finally reached home? Although they didn't know it yet, far beyond the stars, help was on the way. But with the government agents closing in and E.T.'s strength fading, time was running out. The adventure to get E.T. home was about to reach its most dangerous and exciting moment yet. On a bright moonlit night, Elliot, Michael, and Gertie carefully carried the communication device to a tall hill on the edge of the forest. The sky was clear and full of stars, and the moon cast a soft silver glow over everything. It was the perfect place to send a stronger signal into space. E.T., though still weak, stood beside them. His glowing chest flickered softly, and his breathing was slow. But his eyes, full of hope, sparkled brightly in the moonlight. Elliot felt a deep sadness mixed with determination. He knew this might be their last chance to reach E.T.'s home. With Michael adjusting the antenna and Elliot connecting the final wires, the machine hummed softly to life. Lights blinked and pulsed as E.T. gently placed his long, glowing finger on the device. A wave of energy spread outward, filling the air with a warm golden light. Slowly, E.T. raised his hands toward the sky. A magical beam of light shot upwards, stretching far beyond the stars. It shimmered and swirled like a celestial signal, calling out to anyone who might be listening. Elliot and his siblings watched it in awe, their hearts pounding with excitement and fear. "Is it working?" Gertie whispered, her voice filled with hope. "I don't know," Elliot answered softly, his eyes never leaving the beam. Deep down, he prayed that someone, somewhere, would see the signal and come to rescue his friend. E.T. stood still, his face calm but determined. Although his strength was fading, he poured everything he had into sending the message. The light grew brighter and stronger, reaching higher than they had ever seen before. For a moment, everything was silent. The only sound was the gentle hum of the machine and the distant rustle of leaves in the night breeze. Elliot's heart ached. He didn't know if the message had been received or if anyone was even out there. As the light slowly faded, E.T. lowered his hands and turned to face Elliot. Though he was weak, his eyes held a spark of hope, as if he believed his family would find him. Elliot knelt beside him and whispered, "They'll come for you." "I know they will." But as the wind blew softly across the hill, he couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out, and the danger was closer than ever. However, E.T.'s health began to decline rapidly. His body, not built for Earth's environment, grew weaker with each passing day. The once bright glow on his chest flickered dimly, and his energy seemed to fade. Elliot noticed the change immediately and felt a deep sense of fear. If help didn't arrive soon, E.T. might not survive. At first, the changes were small. E.T. moved more slowly and slept longer. He no longer explored with curiosity, and his playful spirit seemed to fade. Elliot tried to cheer him up with toys and candy, but nothing worked. Even Gertie's jokes, which once made E.T. laugh, couldn't lift his spirits. One morning, Elliot woke up to find E.T. shivering in the closet. His breathing was shallow, and his glowing heart was barely visible. Panic surged through Elliot. "Michael, something's wrong with him," he cried. Michael rushed in, his face filled with worry. "We need to do something," Elliot said, his voice trembling. "If his family doesn't come soon, he won't make it." Desperate, Elliot spent every moment caring for his friend. He wrapped E.T. in warm blankets and gave him water. But nothing seemed to help. E.T. was fading, and Elliot could feel his pain through their mysterious connection. The once strong link between them grew weaker, leaving Elliot feeling helpless. Meanwhile, the government agents were closing in. Their search became more aggressive. Strange vehicles moved through the neighborhood, and mysterious men questioned the locals. Elliot knew that if they found E.T., they would take him away, and he might never see his family again. One evening, as Elliot sat beside E.T., tears filled his eyes. "You can't leave me," he whispered. E.T., though weak, gently touched Elliot's hand. His eyes, though dim, still held kindness and gratitude. Michael entered the room, his face serious. "We have to try again," he said. "We have to send the signal one more time. It's our only hope." Despite his fear and exhaustion, Elliot nodded. Time was running out, but he refused to give up on his friend. Somewhere beyond the stars, help had to be coming, and Elliot would do everything in his power to keep E.T. alive until it arrived. Part 4. The Daring Rescue. The government had finally tracked the strange signals to Elliot's house. One morning, black vans and agents in hazmat suits surrounded the neighborhood. Scientists and security teams moved quickly, setting up a mobile laboratory near the house. Elliot's heart pounded with fear. They had found E.T. Without warning, the agents burst into the house. Despite Elliot's desperate pleas, they took E.T. and placed him inside a sterile containment chamber. The once warm and safe home became cold and clinical. The scientists wanted to study E.T., ignoring Elliot's cries that he was dying and needed to go home. Elliot felt helpless as he watched his friend grow weaker under the bright lights of the lab. Through their mysterious bond, he could feel E.T.'s pain and fear. He knew that if they didn't act soon, E.T. wouldn't survive. That night, Elliot and Michael made a bold decision. They had to rescue E.T. No matter the risk, they couldn't let their friend be trapped. With a carefully crafted plan, they gathered their closest friends and prepared to break E.T. out. When the agents changed shifts, Michael and Elliot quietly sneaked into the mobile lab. Using a distraction created by their friends, they slipped past the guards. Elliot's heart raced as he opened the containment chamber and saw E.T., weak but still alive. "We're getting you out of here," Elliot whispered. E.T. weakly reached out and touched Elliot's hand, his chest glowing faintly. With Michael carrying the equipment and Elliot carefully holding E.T., they escaped the lab under the cover of darkness. Outside, their friends were waiting with bicycles, ready to ride as fast as they could. "Let's go!" Michael shouted, and they all took off, pedaling furiously down the empty streets. The cold night air rushed past them as they raced against time, E.T.'s life hanging by a thread. The government agents quickly realized E.T. was missing and launched a chase. Vans roared to life, flashing lights filled the streets, and the sound of sirens echoed behind them. But Elliot and his friends were determined. They wouldn't let anyone stop. As they reached the edge of the forest, E.T., sensing something, lifted his glowing finger. In that moment, the bicycles began to rise into the air, lifting the children high above the ground. Elliot held E.T. close as they soared over the trees, leaving the agents far behind. With the sky stretched out before them, the final journey to get E.T. home had begun. But their biggest challenge was still ahead. During the intense chase, something extraordinary happened. E.T., despite his weakness, used his supernatural powers. With a soft glow from his finger, the bicycles suddenly lifted off the ground. Elliot and his friends gasped in surprise as they soared into the air, leaving the pursuing government agents far below. The night sky stretched endlessly around them. Beneath their feet, the lights of the town twinkled like distant stars. The cold wind brushed against their faces as they flew over dense forests, wide roads, and police barricades. No matter how fast the agents chased them, nothing could catch them now. E.T.'s powers had given them a miraculous escape. Elliot held E.T. tightly, feeling both joy and fear. His heart pounded as he glanced down at the flashing lights below, knowing that if they were caught, E.T. might not survive. But now, soaring through the sky, he felt hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could still save their friend. Guided by E.T.'s powers, the group flew toward the open clearing where they had sent the signal days before. The place was bathed in moonlight, quiet and untouched. Elliot's heart raced with anticipation. Would the ship come? Was the signal received? As they landed softly on the ground, Michael and the others jumped off their bikes and gathered around E.T. His breathing was shallow, and the glow on his chest flickered weakly. Elliot knelt beside him, gently holding his hand. "They'll come for you, E.T. Hold on," he whispered, his voice full of hope. At that moment, the night sky shimmered. A soft golden light spread across the clearing, and a brilliant spaceship began to descend, glowing with otherworldly beauty. The ship hovered just above the ground, its lights casting a warm glow on the children's faces. It was E.T.'s home. They had come. Tears filled Elliot's eyes as he felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. This was the moment he had wished for, but it also meant saying goodbye. The ship's doors slowly opened, revealing a soft ramp bathed in light, ready to take E.T. home. E.T., though weak, smiled gently at Elliot. His eyes sparkled with gratitude and love. With his glowing finger, he softly touched Elliot's heart, a final gesture of their unbreakable bond. The time had come. E.T. was finally going home, but their friendship would last forever. Part 5, The Emotional Farewell. As the spaceship's ramp extended, a warm golden light bathed the clearing. E.T., weak but filled with gratitude, slowly began to walk toward the ship. His small frame moved carefully, and each step seemed to carry the weight of goodbye. The children stood in silence, their hearts heavy, knowing this was the moment they had both hoped for and feared. Elliot stood closest, his eyes brimming with tears. He had fought so hard to protect E.T., and now, after everything they had been through, it was time to let him go. Though he knew this was right, the pain of saying goodbye felt almost unbearable. Just before stepping onto the ship, E.T. paused. Slowly, he turned back to look at Elliot. His large, shining eyes were filled with affection and sadness, a silent promise that he would never forget his friend. The gentle wind brushed past them, but in that moment, time seemed to stand still. E.T. stretched out his glowing finger and softly pointed to Elliot's heart. His voice, quiet but filled with warmth, broke the silence. "I'll be right here," he said gently. Elliot placed his hand on his chest, feeling the weight of those words. Their bond, something no one else could understand, would never be broken. Though E.T. was leaving, a part of him would always stay with Elliot. Michael and Gertie stood nearby, watching with tears in their eyes. Even their friends, who had shared this incredible journey, felt the profound connection between the boy and the alien. It was a friendship that had changed them all forever. As the ship's lights grew brighter, E.T. gave one last gentle smile. Then, with slow steps, he turned and walked up the ramp, disappearing into the warm, golden glow. The door closed behind him with a soft hum. The spaceship began to lift, rising gracefully into the sky. The light grew brighter as it ascended, shimmering like a star against the dark night. Elliot watched, his heart filled with sadness, but also a deep sense of love and wonder. As the ship vanished beyond the stars, Elliot wiped a tear from his cheek and smiled softly. E.T. was home, but their friendship would last a lifetime. A reminder that true connection knows no bounds, not even the distance between worlds. Tears filled Elliot as he watched his small friend slowly walk toward the brilliant light of the spaceship. Each step E.T. took felt like a goodbye that weighed heavily on his heart. The soft hum of the ship echoed through the quiet night, making the moment feel even more bittersweet. At the edge of the ramp, E.T. paused and turned back one last time. His large, gentle eyes met Elliot's, filled with a mix of sadness and gratitude. With a glowing finger, he pointed softly to Elliot's heart, leaving behind a promise that their bond would never be broken. "I'll be right here," E.T. whispered, his voice warm and full of affection. Elliot clutched his chest, feeling the depth of their connection. Though E.T. was leaving, their friendship would always remain in his heart. As E.T. stepped into the golden light, the ship's doors slowly closed behind him. Elliot's tears fell freely as the brilliant glow surrounded his friend, casting a warm radiance over the clearing. With a soft, otherworldly hum, the spaceship began to rise. It floated gracefully into the sky, leaving behind sparkling trails as it ascended higher and higher. Elliot and his friends stood in silence, their eyes following the ship as it became a distant light. Soon, the ship vanished beyond the stars, leaving nothing but the quiet night and the memory of an extraordinary friendship. Elliot stood silently in the middle of the open field, his heart filled with a mix of sorrow and pride. The night sky stretched endlessly above him, now quiet and still, as if nothing had happened. Yet deep inside, Elliot knew that this night had changed him forever. Tears glistened on his cheeks, but a soft smile played on his lips. He had done something truly extraordinary. He had helped a friend, not from this world, find his way home. Despite the ache of saying goodbye, Elliot felt proud. E.T. was safe, back where he belonged, and that thought brought comfort to his heart. Beside him, Michael and Gertie stood quietly, sharing his feelings. The stars above twinkled brightly, and for a moment, Elliot imagined that E.T. might still be out there, looking back at Earth and thinking of them. As the night breeze brushed against his face, Elliot placed his hand gently on his chest, right where E.T. had touched him. The words still echoed softly in his mind. "I'll be right here." Though E.T. had returned to his distant planet, Elliot knew their friendship would never fade. It was a bond that no amount of distance could break, a reminder that true friendship could cross even the stars. In the days and years to come, Elliot often found himself gazing at the night sky, wondering if E.T. was watching too. Whenever he felt alone, he would remember the warmth of E.T.'s glowing touch and the kindness in his eyes. The adventure they shared had taught Elliot valuable lessons about courage, kindness, and the power of believing in the impossible. No matter how much time passed, he carried those lessons with him, like a quiet light inside his heart. And so, Elliot's life returned to normal in many ways. But he was no longer the same. The world felt bigger, full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And somewhere out there, among the stars, he knew that a small, kind-hearted alien would always be his friend. No matter where life took him, E.T. would always be right there, in his heart forever. Elliot stood quietly in the open field, his heart filled with love and pride. Although he missed E.T., he knew he had helped his friend return home where he truly belonged. The stars above twinkled brightly, and Elliot smiled softly, believing that E.T. was out there, always watching over him. As he placed his hand on his chest, he remembered E.T.'s final words, "I'll be right here." Their friendship had crossed worlds and would live in Elliot's heart forever. A reminder that true friendship knows no boundaries. If you love this magical adventure, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thank you for watching, and remember, true friends are always close, no matter how far apart they may be.